Good evening and welcome back to our special public forum, the first in our series of 3, broadcasted on WSIC in partnership with the Lake Norman Chamber of Commerce. We are grateful for the town of Davidson for welcoming us in tonight. Our first session consisted of the candidates for the Davidson Town Board, and now we go to CMS School Board District number 1. Thank you each for being here this evening. I really appreciate it. Appreciate the opportunity to ask questions. And we are going to go left to right on the stage for the first question, just for fun randomly. At the end, I'm going to go the reverse route. It's just how it's going to work tonight. Sir, if you would, introduce yourself, please.
Well, good afternoon or evening. I'm Bill Fountain. I'm a Christian husband, father, grandfather, and a retired Air Force Lieutenant Colonel. Was in the business manager and a licensed North Carolina school teacher. And the way I see things is that for too long, the CMS School Board has put social and political agenda ahead of academic excellence. We're looking at about 2/3 of the students are not meeting the state standard. And not only that, but this type of agenda undermines family values, tolerates code of student conduct violations, and focus or steers some children toward a victimhood mindset. The other thing is, I think what we need to do is to do things that really work. And that is better behavior, character formation, and focusing on the basics, reading, writing, and math. My wife and I have been living here for over 20 years. And like I said, I taught school for 10 years in both CMS and went in a Catholic school. And I retired from that. And now I have, as a retired guy, I have some time and energy to put our kids first and not politics. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ma'am, please introduce yourself.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Melissa Easley. I have the honor and privilege of currently serving as your North Meck representative on the CMS School Board. I am a small business owner. I am a 19-year educator, 10 of which of those years I've spent in CMS. And I am your most recent board member. And so I am very, very excited to be here and share my knowledge with all of you.
I am Charlita from Charlotte. I am not just from here, I am for here. I went to Davidson IB, and I graduated from Vance High School, which is Julius Chambers, where I met my husband in the 10th grade, so I understand the district from top to bottom. I have 3 things I'd like to share with you. 1, log in. I'm currently getting my doctorate in urban education, where I'm studying why families are not putting their kids in CMS. And I think that perspective on the board when we talk about the state of public education will be critical as we look to restore back public trust in our education system. 2, level up. So I'm the Chief Data and Analytics Officer for the City of Charlotte, where I'm responsible for our business intelligence and our artificial intelligence strategy. I think every board needs a thought leader in the artificial intelligence space as we think about how do we lead responsibly and ethically, and also think about the jobs that not just kids have today, but jobs we don't even know exist for tomorrow. And lastly, lead forward. In 2020, I was president of the Junior League of Charlotte, where I led that organization through the pandemic, an anti-racist journey, as well as redefining our business model. And I believe we're in pandemic type times now as we think about all the uncertainty that people feel. And so you need a leader who is solutions oriented and can move beyond advocacy to action. Thank you.
Thank you all for being here tonight. Now with the round of questions, and again, you are welcome to submit if you are here in the crowd. We are also monitoring online. We do have some online questions as well. We hope to get to tonight as well. And so I'm going to start in the middle. Melissa, what are your priorities for the board to address?
I think that my top 4 tend to be our student achievement, closing those achievement gaps, pushing our student achievement forward. We've made great strides this year and want to keep doing that. The transparency to our families, not only for our individual families, but to the community and to our teachers, and making sure that we are using our dollars effectively. These are things that I have been working on my last 3 years, and I want to continue those things because all 4 of those things are really what make CMS one of the greatest districts in the country.
Bill, same question for you. What are your priorities for the board to address?
Well, there are several. One of the Well, the first was, let me just go to the social promotions. One of the things that bothers me is that, I don't know whether you heard about this, but Arthur Griffin, the county commissioner for Mecklenburg, had mentioned, or had actually found out, that in the 2024 graduates, that 2,100 of some 2,100 of those students, of the 9,700 students, actually had a grade point average below 2.0. And he called that disastrous because that was going to, these children were not going to be able to find jobs. They won't be able to get enlisted. And of course, they won't be able to go to college. And I think that's a misguided equity that's being used on that, because they're trying to level the outcomes. And by leveling the outcomes, you're taking away merit and fairness, which needs to be part of our focus for our children, is to have the fairness. So, because think about the receiving teacher. That's the end of my time. Thank you.
Mr. Arlita, your same question for you. What are your priorities for the board to address?
Right now, CMS has their first goal, which is to improve K through second early literacy. And we saw that although there was growth, we did not hit the mark. I'm a 3 times children's book author and really focused on how do you make sure that kids fall in love with reading. So I would definitely focus there. The second priority would be around how do we make sure that our families understand all of the possibilities within CMS. As someone who's studied the choices that families have within the district, I believe that an external communications plan is going to be critical in order to make sure that we're addressing the diverse communication needs in our community, so that families can understand, not just push information out, but make sure that it's strategic. And then lastly, like I mentioned earlier, CMS is on their pilot journey for AI, and I'd like to really be a part of that.
Thank you. Mr. Arlita, for you again, I will ask the next question. What would you do with the first 6 months of the term if elected and you could do anything?
So I have been a strategic leader for most of my career. So I spent the first 20 years at IBM, Accenture, and Slalom, where I led organizations through large-scale transformations. And the one thing that I have learned is that no one likes a leader that comes in as a know-it-all. And so I believe that you need to come in and really make sure that once you're in the seat, that you understand the historical knowledge, that you give honor to the people who have done the work before you, and that you do a good amount of listening. But should I have no dollars and did not have to worry about the perceptions of being a leader in that space, the very first thing I would do is dig into the data to really understand the demographics of the achievements that CMS is touting, because we know that there's a disparity even in our district, a 40-point gap. And so I'd like to really understand that and really start to dig by holding the superintendent accountable to making sure that all kids are being brought along the journey and we're not just celebrating the ones at the top.
Thank you. Melissa, same question for you. What would you do with the first 6 months of the term if you were elected and you could do anything?
Well, if we want to be real confident, if I could do anything, I would be raising teacher pay. Unfortunately, I am not able to do that. So the best thing that I can do in the first 6 months is to continue the transparency and to meet parents where they're at. I've been hosting a newsletter since 2022. I've been hosting meetups all over the place, out here in Davidson, in Cornelius, North Charlotte, all of those places, once a month, where I just go and I say, hey, here I am. No agenda, come talk to me. You have questions. I've done everything from help parents fill out forms to understand, help a parent being able to help their child. I've taught them science concepts so they could go in and help their child. So those things are really, they've been really beneficial, and they're some of my favorite things to do. And so within the next 6 months, I would like to ramp that up a little bit more. I'd like to do more. I'd like to have more participation on the other end, maybe do some online ones and things like that to go in and meet the community more where they're at, so I can bring them along.
Thank you. Bill, same question for you. What would you do with the first 6 months of a term if you were elected and could do anything?
Well, after listening to a variety of different people knocking on doors and to voters, and one of the things that people are calling me about, and that is that some of the first graders, or I guess this is for a lot of the grades, are doing this social emotional learning. And what I would like to do is to revise that social emotional learning to focus it more on character development and development of virtues like integrity, resilience, kindness, those type of things, which I think could be possible if you refine that role, because people want that. To just think about if you all remember the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where in order for people to achieve things, they have to feel safe, they have to feel belong to and respected. And those are type things that character will help develop. And with that, I think students will be more likely to learn quicker. Thank you.
Thank you. Charlie, what do you believe to be the most important items in the CMS budget?
So the most important item in our CMS budget would be how we pay our teachers and our staff to educate our children. We understand that our money comes from the county and from the state, but if we don't have teachers in the classrooms, then our students can't learn.
Thank you. Melissa, what do you believe to be the most important items in the CMS budget?
I think we have several. I think we have, obviously, our teachers. 80% of our budget goes to staff. And so obviously that is our number one priority, is making sure that every staff, because we cannot move that needle forward without a qualified teacher in every classroom. And so that is number one, is making sure there's a qualified teacher in every classroom. The second thing is making sure that those teachers are supported and not just thrown in there and say, here, teach, right? Because we need support, we need help and things like that. So having the resources to do that, making sure that all kids are part of that belonging and love and cherishment, and not just ones that, look like some people or don't. But, I think all of that is important. We want to teach the whole child. And so teaching the whole child is not just academics, that's part of the child. And so that's what I love about CMS, is that we focus on the whole child. So we focus on that integrity and that social emotional learning. We focus on the academics. We focus on all parts of the child.
Thank you. Bill, same question for you. What are the most important items in the CMS budget?
I think probably the most important is the teacher's pay. And if you look at the bureaucracy growth within CMS district, the school district, versus the number of students, which has been pretty level, and the number of teachers has been pretty level. However, the bureaucracy has grown quite a large slope. And I think trimming that budget, that growth of the bureaucracy, would be able to have a higher supplement for our teachers and reduce class sizes. And I think that could be something that could be done, because this is not just only in CMS. This is throughout the nation that I've seen the same high growth in the bureaucracy, and a lot has to do with the greater demands that have been placed. I guess you call it mission creep, is what I guess they call it, mission creep within the school system. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving to the next question. Bill, this one will be for you again. In what ways would you make sure that District 1's needs and priorities stay relevant with the entire CMS board?
Well, I think one of the first things, of course, is being in contact with the people of District 1, which we are here, and having the opportunity to speak even at school boards and also at the different meeting with the PTAs and learning and making sure that we have a good relationship with them. But to keep that priority going is you'd have to be a voice. And that is, and I can actually compliment Melissa in saying no to a contract that was let for $500,000 that she and other people who thought that was not the right thing, and unfortunately she had retaliated against. So I think there's some things that we need to obviously watch what the budget is and what's going on within the schools, particularly trying to make sure that we have some safe schools. I know it's important for our parents. Very important. Thank you.
Thank you. Melissa, what would you do to make sure the needs and priorities of District 1 remain a priority with the CMS school board?
So that is my entire job. My entire job is to represent the vision and values of the community. I cannot do that if I don't know what those visions and values are. And so my newsletter is one way to connect with families. My Minute with Melissa's are another way that I've connected with families. I connect with on social media. I'm everywhere on social media, making sure that families that have questions at least get some sort of answer or at least directed to somebody. I would like to grow that. I would like to continue that because this takes all of us. It's going to take our educators. It's going to take our families. It's going to take our community to bring back bring back North Carolina schools as a top education state that we were 10, 15 years ago.
Thank you. Charlotte, what would you do to make sure the needs and priorities of District 1 remain a priority with the CMS school board?
So I think it's actually pretty disrespectful to make insinuations that another person could tell another woman what to do. As an educated Black female, I am actually doing what I believe will help make sure the needs of District 1 are met by actually running in this race. I understand the breadth of District 1 from North Charlotte to Davidson. And I know what it means to center the community voice. I have been a scholar in that work. I have done that as a business leader. You have to bring people along the journey with you and have those voices at the decision-making table. So it's not just pushing information out, it's really bringing those voices in. So putting my name in is a step towards that.
Thank you. Charlotte, I'll start with you again here. Do you support NIL for high school athletes?
So I mentioned to you all that my husband and I met in 10th grade at Vance, where we went to states. He played football at Elon. I have a brother who played basketball at Vance as well, and then went on to play basketball at High Point and abroad. And so one of the things that I've learned from them is the amount of work and effort that happens to athletes. And a lot of times some of these universities really profit off of the athletes. And yes, they get their tuition paid, but there is so much more that is taken from those athletes. So in the right context and with the right balance and oversight, I could see why athletes would actually be able to own their name, whether they are in kind of higher ed or beyond.
Thank you. Melissa, do you support NIL for high school athletes?
So I think this is a really loaded question because, like Ms. Hatch says, there are different layers to this. And it is actually something, I'm a fine arts person. I know more about the arts than I do about sports. So this is something that I would definitely need to dive into. But this is not something that the CMS board decides. That's a state thing with the evaluation and all that kind of stuff with the sports and what you can and can't do. However, I also think there are cases where it could be a benefit. I think there needs to be guidelines to that so that we don't get someone that goes way off the deep end or we get these two extremes. But that is something actually I would need to dig in more to give a real confident answer in.
Thank you. Bill, same question for you. Do you support NIL for high school athletes?
I think I think that the points they're making about the athletes obviously have their academics they have to deal with, but also they're spending a lot of time in the arena of being prepared for whatever the sports that they're in, and that is something that I can understand, and I think it's actually complimentary because it's broadening their scope of future too, because it's giving them a lot greater span of activities. So I'd really like to hold off on saying that. I think, like Melissa had said, that's kind of a way of a loaded way, of a question about which way to go on that. Thank you.
Thank you all. Melissa, what is your position on school choice?
So, school choice is great. Everyone should make the decision that is best for their families. Period, the end. There's no other discussion than that. However, my biggest issue is that public funds not going to public schools. That's the issue that I have with school choice. And I am absolutely open to talking at other options. This is not a all or nothing, right? So if schools, whether they're private or public, that accept public money or taxpayer public money, then they should be held to the same standards that everyone else is that is taking public money. The school itself, that is completely 100% into the parents' mind, or parents, and children, and whatever works for your family. However, we need to relook at what those schools that accept that money actually, most of them are under our scores, especially this year. Most of them are under our scores. Most of them do not allow for free and reduced lunch, which, brings out cuts out a lot of people. So if they were to be held to the same standard, then I have absolutely no problem with public funds getting public money. But right now, the way the standards are different, while I support school choice and that we should always have it, and that is a very fair option, public funds should not be going to private schools.
Thank you. Bill, what is your position on school choice?
Well, I support school choice, and the way I look at it is that the money that the taxpayers are paying is actually going essentially to the child, and so that the parents can decide where to send that child is their prerogative, and I want to make sure that's continued to do it. And not only that, but in several of the states that have expanded school choice, taxpayer-funded school choice, has actually improved the public schools. The states are Florida, and I can't remember what the other one was. I know Indiana and I think it was Arizona are the other ones that have seen actually improvement in their public school systems at the same time, because I guess it creates the market for dollars. So I think like I said, I support school choice because too many families, I think, are upset because they're trapped in a failing or a not so good school. Thank you.
Thank you. Charlie, same question for you. What is your position on school choice?
Critical times right now. When you think about where we are with public education across the country. And so when you have the ability I agree that every family has to make decisions for their child. But what we want to make sure is that every family has an option to get their birthright of a high quality education by way of our public schools. So public dollars should not leave the public school system, but families should have the option to make their choices the way that they need to. As I mentioned earlier, I've been studying for the last 5 years urban education, and specifically how families are choosing schools and why they are not choosing CMS. And so some of that is around not having the information to navigate through a system so large and one in that smallness. So I think we got to figure out how to make it small so that families feel like CMS is an option for them, whether they choose it or not. We want that to be an option.
Thank you. Bill, next question. I'm going to start with you on this one. What do you believe the role of technology should be for students in schools?
Repeat that again. What? But the economic what?
What do you believe the role of technology should be for students in schools?
Of knowledge.
Of technology.
Oh, technology. Oh,
yes, sir.
Here's from pedagogy wise is that if you look at the Harvard and NIH studies, they have found that having students having a lot of screen time at young ages actually is bad for their neurological development. And so I would be of the mindset that, because I know within CMS, we have K through 2, I think it is. It have iPads, and 3 through 5, I think it is. It have Chromebooks. So I would say, hey, we shouldn't be doing that because I think that is disturbing their neurological development. And going back to books, writing on the whiteboards, whatever, those type of things I think ought to be used, because I think the technology is actually having a counter effect than what we think is supposed to be happening to our children. So I think it's detrimental to our children. Thank you.
Thank you. Melissa, same question for you. What do you believe the role of technology to be for students in schools?
So let me start out by saying my master's degree is in online teaching and learning. So using technology has always been something in my classroom. In fact, I've been one of the first CMS teachers to use flipped classrooms and distance technology, which I've done for over a decade at this point. So technology is a tool, just like a math manipulative, just like a science kit, it is a tool. Yes, those studies do show that K-12 or K2 should be off screen time. But in all reality, all of our tests from the state and diagnostics are online. They are digital. They have to know how to use a device to take those tests, because guess what? We want to see those tests of what they actually know and not them trying to figure out how to use the technology. Technology should absolutely be a tool that teachers use. CMS is leading the way in AI development with our policies, with our regulation, and with our pilot programs that we've been doing, including 4 of them here in North Mech. I actually just did a whole article on this. If you go onto my social media, I break this all down, exactly what it is, where you can find more information, and what it means for you and your student to use our technology.
Thank you. Charlita, what do you believe the role of technology to be for students in schools?
We are in the 21st century in the United States of America. And what we want is for all of our students to be competitive in this global connected society. We need to do that in age-appropriate ways, but we need to make sure that we have a technology and digital learning plan that allows our students to be digitally literate as they navigate through this society. If we take technology away, or if we are not putting our kids ahead on that curve, we're actually failing them when we have this goal of every student being enrolled, employed, or enlisted, if they are not able to cope and navigate and operate the way we do as adults. It is our responsibility to make sure our students are digitally literate and can operate in this society.
Thank you. Ms. Charlita, I'll follow up with the same, another question, starting with you first. Should teachers, administrators, and board members be allowed to engage in expressing their personal political views on campus, with students, and in open on social media?
Can you repeat the question?
Should teachers, administrators, and board members be allowed to engage in expressing their personal political views on campus, with students, and in open social media?
So we live in a very diverse society. And so I believe school is a place for learning. I mentioned earlier, I am a 3 times children's book author, and there is an example that we often give when we're talking about the role of books. And that is that there are mirrors in which you can see yourself, and windows where you peek into the life of someone else. So if you are expressing a balanced view in which everyone can feel like they belong and are seen, and it is a learning opportunity, then I think that is absolutely appropriate. If it is a one-sided view or something that would make people feel like they do not belong, and it is actually doing instructional time, then I would not support that.
Thank you. Melissa? Should teachers, administrators, and board members be allowed to engage in expressing their personal political views on campus, with students, and in open social media?
Well, I guess most people know I've had a really unique experience with this. So here's what I'm going to say. A teacher is still an American citizen. Their rights do not end at that school door. That being said, you asked me 3 different situations: in school, with students, and on their personal page, correct?
Should teachers, administrators, and board members be allowed to engage in expressing their personal political views on campus, with students, and in open social media?
Okay, so campus and on students, those need to be neutral, 100%. You are an educator. You need to teach all sides. As a social studies teacher, I spent 10 years doing that, teaching all religions, teaching all aspects. Not once did my students know my personal and political beliefs. My personal social media is a different thing. My rights as a human being do not stop just because I am a school board member or a teacher. And so on my personal my personal page, your personal thoughts, your personal feelings are absolutely warranted, and you have every right to feel them no matter what they are, as long as you are not advocating to hurt somebody else. Obviously, there's caveats to all that, but you have the right to say what you want to say in your personal views. That should not cross the line into your teacher in your education standpoint.
Thank you. Bill, should teachers, administrators, and board members be allowed to engage in expressing their personal political views on campus with students and in open social media?
Well, in the open social media, you have your First Amendment rights to express yourself. If you're particularly if you're underlying the thing is that, hey, I'm speaking as my personal opinions, not as a school board member or as a teacher or or whatever. So you have that prerogative to be able to do that, and you should be allowed to be able to do that. And in regard to being able to in the classroom about expressing personal opinions that were it's as long as they're the type of things that are in your textbooks that are agreed to textbooks or curriculum, then that's the way you want to go with that curriculum of what they're saying, rather than adding your own biases or your own thoughts into the mix. So that would be my answer.
Thank you. Melissa, what do you think CMS does well, and what do you think CMS does poorly?
I think CMS does well. We have a lot of heart. We have a lot of caring. We have teachers that would do anything for their students. Our staff, from Dr. Hill down to our custodial staff and our BMTs, everyone wants what's best for students, and they will go out of their way. And we have some of the best staff ever, whether that's in the schools or in upper top or whatever it is. We have some of the best staffs, and I'm absolutely proud to be part of CMS and be part of CMS for so many years. But there's always room to grow. And I think our biggest challenge right now is our communication. We are looking for a new communications officer. We have, it's always been a problem of communication at CMS. This has been a long time thing, not only communication from the top to staff, but the top to public, from the staff to, there's always been issues. And so we really need to get that right. And I truly am honored to say that Dr. Hill really takes the time to learn from her experiences, and the things that may not have gone well, she takes that, what did we learn from it and how can we improve that? And I'm really proud to say that I've seen her do this on multiple occasions.
Thank you. Charlita, what do you think CMS does well? What do you think CMS does poorly?
I think one of the things that I think CMS does well really has to relate to the leadership and the growth that they experienced this last year. So what they're doing is definitely working overall. And that I would make that a testament to leadership, kind of leaning in and really turning the tide there. In addition to communication, one of the things that I think CMS is probably still doing poorly, and you could even see that in our district, is that there's still inequities that exist across our schools, and specifically, with Black and Brown children across the district and how in which they perform, and the grade levels of those schools. So I think there should be some concerted effort to really take that same energy and effort in what we're doing well overall as a district and really tailoring it to the areas that need it the most.
Thank you. Bill, what do you think CMS does well, and what do you think CMS does poorly?
Well, I think to complement the school system on having the variety of different magnet schools, the IB, STEM and arts, and a variety of different things that allow people to have a lot of choices to be able to pick from, even though that the enrollment has been pretty flat for quite a while. But from the poorly, I have to go back to the notion of the student performance, and even from the last one from the state, showing that 44% of the students were not proficient at their grade level. That doesn't give you a good feeling for the future of these children, because I know as a former teacher, if I get a student coming in to my classroom who is not prepared for, I was teaching math, who doesn't know certainly about equations or whatever, he or she are going to struggle. And not only that, that's going to take time away from your fellow students, which is not fair. Thank you.
Moving to safety, Charlita, I'll start with you first. What, if any, safety precautions do you believe should be implemented at CMS?
So one of the things that is important to me and my platform is not just around the physical safety, because I think we will all agree on that and what that needs to look like. And we want every parent to feel like their child is safe when you leave them at school. But really around psychological safety and mental safety. I think we've really got to get to some proactive measures. Our students are dealing with so much. And we're seeing, anxiety, depression, and suicide continue to rise. And we want to make sure that students feel like they are safe, that they belong, that there's a grown-up that somewhere that they can turn to. So it would be psychological and mental safety.
Thank you. Melissa, what, if any, safety precautions do you believe should be added at CMS?
Doing a lot of things. We are redesigning our schools to make them all one building so that we're not having separate buildings having to go outside. We are making them with new vestibules. I was able to see one of our newest schools, Sedgefield Montessori, and how the vestibule works. And what it is, you hit the button just like you always do, but then you walk in and there's another set of doors that have security glass, and you have to get buzzed in or let in again, just in case. So it's that second layer of security that we've really started. We're also getting out of the blind business, is what we like to say, and that we're doing tinted windows. So these are new things that are coming in that you can see out but not in. So we're working on that as well and working with some of our schools on that. Around the mental safety, that is absolutely a number one priority. It's things that I have worked on. In fact, the very first thing I did on the board when I got on was fight for nurses to be better and more nurses to be allowed in schools. At that time, nurses had to have a bachelor's degree to work in a school. And we found out that, CNAs and RNAs can also do that as well. And so it opened up our opportunity to get more nurses to help that mental health, to help the physical health, to help that security for all of our students. And we were able to now get more nurses that way by able to breaking up that thing and bring it to someone's attention.
Thank you. Bill, what, if any, safety precautions do you believe should be added at CMS?
Well, I think we ought to have an adequate number of resource officers in all the schools. That'd be one of the first things. And the other one is, which I even mentioned in the opening remarks, was about the tolerating the code of student conduct violations. I think that has to cease. CMS has a great code of student conduct, but from teachers and people that I have talked to, that's not being enforced consistently throughout the school system. And I think that's going to have a lot to do with safety, because teachers have told me that they've been cursed out by students. And of course, if a teacher doesn't feel safe, what's going on? So that, I think that's a very important part of it, is to enforce or to honor the code of student conduct. And of course, like I mentioned, resource officers. Thank you.
Thank you. Melissa, is CMS too big?
And I've heard both sides of this, and both sides have very valid arguments, and I understand that. I am not from here. I will say that. I do know that the district was smaller in the 70s. They went to one big district. Are there benefits to splitting up the district? Absolutely. Are there benefits to not splitting up the district? Absolutely. And so I think this is just something that is a personal thing and not one way or another that is going to benefit or hurt students. And so this is not something that I actually, really put time into, but I understand where people see it's too big, and I see it myself. When we have snow and ice up here and there's rain down in South Charlotte, we have to close the whole district. Is that the right thing to do? But yet, closing individual schools, the state doesn't allow us to do that. So we still have to work within the state. It's either, we can only close certain schools for individual specific reasons. Otherwise, we have to close as a district. So it puts us in a very tough spot, but I think it's just more of a personal choice, and I get it. I get both sides.
Bill, is CMS too big?
Yes, I think the answer is yes. When I was in the business world, we had different corporations. Once they grew to a certain size, they would split off that as another, almost a separate identity, because of the whole idea that you want the decision making down at the lowest competent level. And I think that would bode well, because we already know that. I think I can't remember, we're 14th or 16th or something like that in the nation, and the way the size of that CMS is that I think it needs to be segregated up into different sections. How? I don't know. You could go east, west, north. I don't know. But I think just from a management standpoint of view and efficiency, and bringing the people closer to the schools, I think that would be an important step to do, is to break the system up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arlita. Same question to you. Is CMS too big?
So I think, there are definitely probably some companies that spin off, but we also know there's the Fortune 500, and we have 20 Fortune 500 companies, at least in this area, that have over 500,000 employees. And so I think it is a matter of what you do with the culture. And so I could say from a District 1 perspective, you could probably feel you're not central to the heart of Charlotte and therefore forgotten, and that it's too big. And so I think it's up to us as a district, because we have so many different opportunities and possibilities because of the size that we have, is that we've got to figure out ways to make it feel small. And how do we get that community and make sure that the voices at the very top of the North feel like they're being heard right here in central office?
Thank you all for this evening. We will have our last question now. And as I mentioned in the beginning, I'm going to go right to left this time as well. Mr. Arlita, why should people vote for you?
So, like I mentioned earlier, we are in critical times. And I think that you need someone in District 1 that, one, understands the district from the bottom to the top. I think having someone that is from this area, where we have 157 people moving here every day, and knows the possibilities that CMS provides as a first-generation college student because of CMS. I know what an HBCU is, and I was able to go to Hampton University. And you bring that voice with you to the board. Additionally, although I am not a traditional classroom educator, the voices and the perspectives that I bring are currently not on the board, being a scholar and studying family engagement and why mothers are not putting their kids in CMS, being a business leader and a technology leader, and then being a solutions kind of community organizer for the last 20 years. I think a combination of those skills, as well as being a mother and a children's book author and a podcaster, a combination of all of those skills, I think, allows me to be able to be relatable across the district, and provide a different set of skill set that the board does not currently have, and could benefit from.
Thank you. Melissa, why should people vote for you?
The taxpayers and our citizens demand results, and I do too. And I've brought those results. I have brought results of closing achievement gaps. I have brought results of hiring our scores. I am a 19-year educator. I bring board experience. I'm a small business owner. I realize how big these communications and these events are, that a small group where you can hear and go to listen. I've been in the education system for over 20 years at this point. 15 of those years have been spent in CMS. I understand what teachers need. I understand what our students need. And as a parent of 2 CMS students, I have a parent perspective as well. And so I get the legislative perspective, I get the teacher perspective, and I get the parent perspective. And I'm the only one up here with all 3 of those to bring all of those experiences to the school board.
Thank you. Bill, why should people vote for you?
Well, the first thing I think is because I care. I'm not to mean that the rest of these ladies right here don't care either. I mean, but I do care about what's going on in our school. About putting kids first and not politics. I have the leadership, teamwork, and in the classroom experience, I think, to be an effective change agent into preparing our children to succeed in life. not to be socially promoted, but to succeed in life, to empower our parents, to promote school choice. And one of the most important parts is to hold or uphold traditional values in the classroom so that we can have the ideas that Melissa even mentioned about the belonging, the caring, and the integrity. Those are very important. And of course, one of the other things is that, I guess it's because of my military background, is that I know that how important discipline and behavior is into our orderly day, normal life. I mean, we have traffic laws that we have to obey, and if we obey those traffic laws, the traffic flow is fine. But if we don't, it's a mess. So that's one of the things I bring, that leadership, teamwork, and in the classroom experience. Thank you.
Thank each of you for being here tonight. I really appreciate it. We appreciate you answering the questions, and I'm going to get blasted online as well because I did not get to ask all of the questions that we got tonight. But there are more opportunities. I'm sure there's more opportunities to engage with these candidates as the election gets closer, and so we would encourage everyone to take advantage of that opportunity. To our radio family on WSIC, we always appreciate you listening. To our video live stream family, thank you as well. And of course, to our live audience, we appreciate you joining us this evening. Be sure to join us next Tuesday. We will be in Cornelius at their town hall with their mayoral and their board candidates, and then in Huntersville the following week as well for their mayoral and their board candidates. We appreciate you all. Have a great evening.
Thank you.